Michigan, noon on January 1st. Let's make a few opening comments. We'll open up for questions.
Well, obviously, we're excited about going to Tampa in the Outback Bowl. It's a great reward for our players, our university, our staff, administration, and our fan base. And I know our fan base will travel extremely well. We're a very appealing team to a lot of people because of our fan base and because of how we travel, and selling the tickets is obviously a huge part of it, and I know our people will travel extremely well. But a great reward for our players and a lot of hard work, and going down to Tampa for a week will be a great reward for them. An opportunity to continue to show progress within our program, and we've shown tremendous progress. We're an up-and-coming team. 70% of our roster is freshmen and sophomores, so it's an exciting time as a Gamecock. Opportunity for, in essence, another spring practice to continue to develop that part of your football team and continuing to work through those sort of things, which is really exciting to be able to work with our guys, in essence, having another spring. But opportunity to be the 7th team in school history to win 9 or more games, and that's a huge deal to our football team. I know that's important to them. So a lot of good stuff going on. It's been a little different in December because of the signing date in December 20th. It's been a little more accelerated as far as, obviously, you've seen some of this coaching stuff, business going on. But we're really looking forward to that day. It'll be another signing day in essence, and obviously the one in February as well. So we've been on the road and beating it up a little bit. But injuries-wise, A.J. Turner, K.C. Crosby, and Rico Dowdle should all be back for the bowl game and should be ready to go. Terry Gouger has not been cleared, and obviously Debo and Bryson Allen will be out. But other than that, I think that that's kind of where we are roster-wise. Our guys still have 2 weeks of school before exams to go. So we're heading to the end there academically. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Well, I know this just got announced today, but have you already started looking at Michigan and their personnel and what you could maybe expect from them?
Have not. Just saw they're 8-4. They've lost some really good football teams, and we've got one common opponent in Florida. And obviously Florida went through a lot of change before we played them, but have not looked at them.
Coach, you talked about the opportunity really to have a so-called second spring practice, really kind of like last year, getting to this opportunity. What do you think this really means, especially for the younger guys and guys who maybe haven't played a lot either,
right,
what you can do over these next few weeks as you get prepared for a nice bowl game?
Well, I think as much as anything, football's a developmental game, and you got to take snaps, and it's hard to do it one-on-one or two-on. I mean, you got to be able to go out there and play the game, and that'll give us that opportunity. Probably the first 3 or 4 practices will be strictly our underclassmen to continue to work and develop those guys. And but again, you've got to take snaps in order to get better at this game, and that offers us that opportunity to do that. And it's critical. I was at the University of Florida, and we had a guy named Luchez Purifoy who had not started, had been a huge special teams contributor the entire season, went in and had a great bowl practice, ended up starting the Gator Bowl for us as a corner because of the bowl practice he had put together and how he had gone about his business. Obviously, he had played some in the year, but not in a starting role. So it's an opportunity for these guys to take a huge step forward and feel good about themselves going in the offseason and going into spring ball.
Coach, I know you talked about all season long. There's going to be a time to be able to reflect on the season, but I mean, 2 years ago, this team only had 3 wins. 2 years later, now they're going to a New Year's Day bowl game. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, how does that make you feel? And I mean, how do you feel for those guys, especially the juniors and seniors that fought out?
Well, I'm very proud of our senior class. Really, our first class last year, and in this class for wasn't a lot of numbers-wise, but a lot of guys that bought into what we were doing and changing the culture and moving forward. And that's sometimes it's hard to do. So I appreciate their buy-in, which has been very strong. This has been a fun team to be around as far as the preparation is concerned, and how they've competed and played. It's been exciting. So we got to continue to move forward. We got to continue to get better. We still have a ways to go, but we're certainly have made some progress, and it's easy to see. And certainly I see it as a coach because I'm around it every day, and I see it. I know what it looks like. But certainly for your fan base to see the progress from 3 wins to where we are at this point is exciting.
You just mentioned guys getting better, pushing for starting spots through bowl practice. Any guys right now who have been kind of pushing towards the end of the season, notably a Keyshawn Nixon, who are kind of pushing for potentially a start in the bowl?
Well, Keyshawn did a fantastic job when he got in our last ball game, and certainly we need to be more physical on the perimeter. That's been an issue since we've been here, and he certainly is going to get a lot more opportunities. There's no doubt about that. But just right now, I do feel like we've got a good mix up front defensively on how we're rotating and playing the guys. Continuing to build our depth on the offensive line. Obviously, Rico coming back, that creates more competition at that position, which is good for us. The receiver position, I think, we've had a lot of young guys playing and doing a nice job, but for Drake Davis to be able to have a spring ball, to Ortre to continue to progress the way he has throughout the year and have another spring ball, in essence, this being bowl practice. But for all those young players, I think it will be huge for them. We need some tight ends to step up, and then, linebacker Sherrod Green would be huge for him to go through the spring practice. Damani Staley is a guy that we're excited about his future here. So all of those guys, again, they get an opportunity to take a step forward with the reps and the amount of turns that they're going to get.
What is Curt Roper's status with the team?
He's our offensive coordinator.
Do you think that might change? Do you? His name has been out there with Rice. There have been
I'm
other.
not going to get into speculation and sources said and business like that. Right now, he's our offensive coordinator. That's all I know.
Do you expect him to be for the bowl game?
Sure.
Coach, you touched on this before the season when you guys were going to Charlotte, but you like getting your program out there in the areas you heavily recruit. Is it good going down to Florida and kind of getting your program and your brand out there to some kids that you?
Yeah, well, we obviously in previous stops have recruited the Tampa area extremely hard and been very good for us, and will continue to do so. So there's no doubt about the high school football in that state, and it's always good to obviously market your brand in areas that you want to be able to recruit and get some ties into some people down there, and we know a lot of folks, so they'll be good to see the Gamecocks.
Were there any guys in last year's bowl practices that really you kind of used that as a launching off point to doing what they did this season?
Well, I mean, I think that Jamarcus King and Rashad Fenton both continue to come on. DJ Smith, I thought the latter part of the season last year did some really nice things. T.J. Brunson's the guy that really took off from his bowl practice last year, just kind of off the top of my head here. Kobe Smith did some nice things. I think up front, Zach Bailey and some guys really did some things positively stepping forward. It was big for Jake. I mean, last year you took the steps from the season to how well he played in the bowl game, tremendous strides. So that's a positive there. So, Brian Edwards, again, all the young players, they just need turns and reps. They need as many at-bats as they can get to continue to improve and slow the process down for them.
Will, a couple of questions. First, how's Shy Smith?
Shy's good. Yeah, he's fine. He's going to be fine.
And with Curt, will he call plays for the bowl game?
That's the plan.
Obviously, can't name these guys by name yet, but any of the mid-year guys that you guys have coming in expected to be in and practice with you guys?
It's interesting because of the way the date is set up, and there's a dead period involved with that. So it's going to be more difficult to have guys involved in bowl practice because that is now a 48-hour dead period from the 20th to the 22nd. So that's going to be an issue as far as trying to get a guy in for practice, and we're still kind of working through that. And we have a lot of guys involved in all-star games, and if they're playing in an all-star game, they can't come to bowl practice. So that's kind of, we're working through that a little bit. I don't know that that's going to be something moving forward with this early signing date to be able to get guys in like we have before.
Will, looking back to last season, you talked about having those extra 15 practices to be able to get the young guys a little bit more experience. Looking back to that, how big was that for you guys to get going into the spring and to get you guys to the point where you are now?
Well, again, I think it's just about turns and reps and giving guys opportunities, moving guys around and maybe, switching some things up positionally to see what some guys can do at some different spots. So you're not necessarily, when we're in Columbia, we will get our game plans will be complete before we go to Tampa, and we'll certainly introduce our opponent to our football team. But it's like spring ball. You're not really getting ready for a game, so to speak. You're going through a lot of fundamentals and techniques and going and learning more and more about players and seeing them develop.
Will, another couple. The Outback Bowl itinerary says practice on the 26th for you guys. Will you do that? You know what time that'll be?
David, I hadn't really gotten to scheduling and all that. Our guys are in exams through December 17th, so we've got to manage that here when we start practice. And then as far as when we break, we will be down there the 26th, but I haven't gotten a full idea of what we're going to be doing when we get down there yet.
And Evan was on with basketball last night. What will his schedule be going forward with hoops?
When we get back with the bowl practice, he'll be back with us. Frank and I talked about it, and Evan and I had a good talk, and he wanted to have the opportunity these next couple of weeks to play basketball, and I thought it'd be great for him and good for our basketball team.
Obviously, you guys plan for sort of this part of the Accelerator recruiting process, but what has it sort of been like now that you're kind of in the middle of it, and where do you sort of feel like you guys are in this process?
Well, I think we're in a good spot. I think you are, there's some, obviously there's a signing date December 20th, and, somebody that, may feel like that they've been committed to you, and those sort of situations are all of a sudden saying they may sign February. It makes you start to wonder a little bit. Where are you with that young man? I think obviously in a lot of situations academically, some guys maybe didn't do well in fall semester. So we got to reevaluate that situation. So there's a lot of different things you got to juggle through this early signing date as far as those things are concerned.
Coach, in regards to the progress and the process of continuing to grow this program, how important is it in the value of playing on January 1st, which has always been such a big date for college football bowls, but now especially with the New Year's 6? Is it good to have the team go through a flow as you approach that date?
Absolutely. I think anytime you're in a spotlight like this and playing in a bowl like the Outback Bowl, obviously it's good for your program, it's good for your players, the exposure that our program gets and our players get, and that's what it's all about to me.
Do you know Jim Harbaugh? Have you guys crossed paths, or do you have any other connections with that Michigan staff?
I don't. I know Greg Madison very well, their defensive line coach. He's an outstanding football coach and a great person.
How would you evaluate Curt's performance as your offensive coordinator and play caller this season?
Well, we need to be more productive offensively, and there's no doubt about that, and I think that's the first thing he'd tell you as well.
It's becoming a bit more popular for players to sit out bowl games. Have any of your players expressed to you that they don't want to play in this game?
No, not at this time. So again, not so far.
Coach, how do you evaluate the postseason? Is it just a win is a win, a loss is a loss, or do you look at, like last year, you lose the bowl game, but some guys play well, you got the extra practice reps. Do you allow for that gray area, or is it just a win is a win, a loss is a loss?
We're there to win the game. The fun's in winning. And if you don't win, it's, they give you all these nice bowl sweats. Hell, you don't want to wear them. They got that stuff on the game, make you think about it again. So if you're there, you might as well win the game. That's what we're going to do.
Coach, you're just talking about how the offense from, I guess, the top down, starting with Roper, from calling plays, needs to be more consistent. After evaluating some tape, I'm assuming, over last week in recruiting, what have you kind of thought, just in your mind, how this team can take steps forward in being a more consistent, potent offense?
Well, I think you evaluate your entire program in all three phases from a football standpoint. Obviously, we're in the middle of recruiting right now, and this accelerated signing dates changed some things for us. But, it's a constant evaluation about what we need to do to improve and get better. And that's what I'm going through right now with our entire organization. That's along with recruiting and along with a lot of other things going on. David's asking me about schedules for December 26th. I mean, I'm not really ready to say that right now. So that's kind of where we are.
Thanks.
Ask me another schedule question.
Well, once this matchup got announced, of course, people started thinking of a rematch and the Clowny Hit. How many times
I'm
have
going to
you...
see if he got a year of eligibility left or maybe a game. Just give him a quarter.
I mean, I know it's kind of posted around the building. How many times have you seen that?
A lot. Looked good.
Do you remember that during the day or when you first saw it when it happened?
I don't know where I was at the time, but I've seen it a bunch. It's a nice hit.
Questions for Coach? Not going to get him again for a while.
You asked too many multiple questions.